So story time before we get started. This is now my favorite addiction in Japan at Konbini.
Cucumber?
It's basically got a lid where it's got some kind of like, I don't even know what the sauce is based in. It's kind of like a little bit of spice, a little bit of mustardy taste, a little bit of salad dressing taste. It's really good. It's just like dipping sauce. And then they put cabbage in there and some carrots. And then this right here, this is daikon, that white stuff. And then cucumber. And then they have a special thing right now for Halloween where they do these little Hot Pocket looking things, but they're like tortillas. It's hard to see. There you go.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
So this basically says habanero, tomato, and what does that say? Kara? Tomato kara? Is that right? Kare? Tomato kare, right? Kare?
Yeah.
Yeah, kare. So basically it's tomato-based curry with habaneros and cheese. And it's a freaking black tortilla.
That's not exactly what I would have expected.
Is it made of
And I'm
seaweed?
telling you, it tastes a lot like a habanero like pizza sauce.
Mm.
Is it really
Or-
spicy or is it all right?
It's pretty spicy, dude, and it's good. I'm going to be eating on stream.
I like
Well,
spicy
good.
food, but it don't like me. I mean, I don't like it really spicy because if it's painful and I can't think about the flavor, then, you know,
No, it's not
it's
that
a
bad.
non-starter. But
But-
I like the spicy flavors, so.
Yeah. All right, folks. Let's crack some coffee and do this. Oh my gosh, that's so distracting for an intro. Ah, it's hot.
So drink water, make it better.
This is just going to make the stream funnier, that's all.
Well,
All right, I think
It's all about
Grant's
the
name's
comedy.
too big on the stream. It looks like he's just the king
My
of the stream.
name's
We can't have that.
never too big.
My name's never too big.
My ego.
Grant,
might be,
this is
though.
what happens when your wife goes away. You become unbearable, okay?
Oh,
Ooh! We went there. That's the
Yeah.
worst Soylent infomercial ever. That's what I get for talking about curry and spicy habaneros. That's actually going to make the outtakes wicked good. Thank you for that. All right, let's start
that's
this.
the worst.
Start this
I
thing.
love it.
Here we go. You will not be able to hear the music, but I'll intro you in, all right? 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
Greetings, visionaries. Welcome to Velen's Chosen. Whether you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, a deck building visionary, you just like having a little bit of fun, we can help you buff your game and achieve your Hearthstone goals. This week, we have a very special guest, Mage-a-Polarity, and we're going to be talking about getting to know him, talking about his stream, moving on to talk about Vicious Syndicate's Meta-Polarity as a major talking point. Less about the article and more about the concept, because we're not here to slam people unless it's you. And wrap up the deck with guiding you with a potential time with even Paladin, but we're not going to hard commit to that because we're not sure how long the discussion will go. As per usual, we can't go under an hour. So my name's Rob, most of the verbose in the intros, and that's why I have to read them fast. Welcome to the show. And yes, Wicked Kitten, I hate everyone who listens at 1.5 times, so you can slow yourself down, and I will speed myself up. Welcome to Velen's Chosen 159, Mage-a-Polarity, or Mage-a-Death, joining us. What's up, Mage-a-Death? How you doing?
Hey there, guys. Very excited to be here. This is been listening a long time, and so this is a dream come true.
It's one of those things where if you talk to novelists, at least, the only way to get to be a guest on this show is to have someone else suggest you to oblivion, and then we feel obligated to have you on. Grant's also joining us. What's up, Grant?
Yeah, I'm here as usual, man. I feel like I've been holding down the fort recently, so it's really glad to have you back, bud. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
good to
really
be
happy
back.
to see you, man.
Grant had a mini panic attack when he realized that Eve was not going to be able to make it last week, and we're trying to book guests early. It wasn't like panic attack pre-show. It was like we were trying to plan it all week, and we're kind of having like an extended panic attack all week. Like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? I can't be here. And if you're tuning into the live stream or watching on YouTube, these are some new specs that I just got, and they are fantastic. They feel great. They have a blue filter on my new glasses so that they don't glare as hard, and they're way easier on my eyes. And it's really messing with my depth perception because my other ones were way thinner, and I
Yeah.
constantly look over and under them for no reason at all. And now it's like really screwing with me. So it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. But thank you guys for joining us. I'm just going to kick it back over to Grant to do a little bit of an interview with our guest as we get to know you, Mage-a-Death. So, Grant, take us away with the interview.
Well, Mage-a-Death, welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you. I feel very flattered when you say it's a dream come true because, that's just
Like
kind
Disney
of
World.
It's a nice thing.
Yeah,
Nice thing to
it's
say.
well, I mean, I as far as like Hearthstone stuff, I've had some dreams, accomplished some dreams, gotten legend, all that sort of thing. But I've been listening to you guys and a few other podcasts since I started playing, and it just yeah, it's really exciting to be here.
Yeah, man, we're really really excited to have you. Especially because some of the subject matter we're going to talk about. But before we get into the nitty gritty of the show, let's let the listeners get to know you a little better in case they don't know you because let's
It
not everybody.
happens.
It's kind of a funny thing. Like a lot of us who've been in the Hearthstone community have been around so long that we just kind of assume everybody knows who everybody else is,
Right.
and that's not necessarily the case. So let's just kick it off easy. I'm going to kick you off with the same question I ask everybody, but tell us about kind of how you got into Hearthstone and how you got into gaming and like what kind of led you to basically the table that we're sitting at now.
Sure. So I am a longtime Blizzard gamer. I started playing Blizzard games with the original Warcraft RTS
Ooh.
and Diablo. Those were my games. Those were my gateway games, but it really was World of Warcraft that brought me fully into the Blizzard universe. Started playing that about month or two before the Burning Crusade expansion launched.
Me too.
So I did not. I'm not one of those original vanilla player. I am, but not like all the way back.
I
just
relate to you on an esoteric level. Go ahead.
So I can't quite go quite that far, but close enough. And so I playing that, and I love that game, and played that for a long time. Actually, kind of stepped back from World of Warcraft for a little while, but came back during Cataclysm. When I came back, there was a whole bunch of other games now too that were kind of cool, and I wanted to try them out. And I had a lot of friends that were playing Heroes of the Storm, so I tried playing Heroes of the Storm, and it actually was Heroes of the Storm that got me into Hearthstone because
that's cool.
Blizzard had a cross promotion into Hearthstone that you could get a mount in Heroes of the Storm.
Oh yeah,
right about a little bit before Whispers of the Old Gods came out. That
right.
You play Hearthstone and you can get a mount in game, and I started playing it. I had never played a CCG before. Hearthstone's my first. I tried playing a little bit of Magic the Gathering, and I did not get everything that was going on there. I have some friends that are big into the game and wanted me to get into it, and I tried like once or twice, and I was just like, there's just too much here. But I thought the tutorial actually helped me get into this game quite a bit, and it seemed a lot easier rather than just. I feel like they kind of threw me to the wolves when they were trying to teach me Magic. They were just like rule on top of rule right away, whereas kind of the tutorial piecemealed the kind of the way the game worked a little bit better, I guess.
Now this
and
is
so
after
I've been
their
playing
first
it ever
update to
since.
that, I think, right? Like they did their first pass of the update to the tutorial for you guys right before Whispers, I think, and they've been slowly.
Yeah, that
right?
could have been. So so I've been playing ever since. I got really excited about it. Whispers of the Old Gods came out. I liked the Old Gods, and it just kind of snowballed from there. My first card back is the Hogger card back. So
Ooh.
that was that also was that. And so fast forward to like BlizzCon 2016, I was like really into the game, and I was trying to start getting like trying to meet people and that sort of thing. And the circle that I ran in was more World of Warcraft players, and so nobody really knew how to, or nobody was really playing
Mhm.
Hearthstone that much.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they said they were too intimidated to start playing because there wasn't a lot of resources for people who are just starting out, or
Hmm.
how to play, how to get better, that sort of thing. And actually, it was that kind of those discussions, and I had wanted to get into podcasting and streaming for a couple years, since kind of like the very first BlizzCon that I went to. And I was like, I should start streaming this. I'm not great at the game at that point, but I really liked and really wanted to get more people I knew playing the game. And so I started streaming like a week after I got back from BlizzCon, and have been doing that ever since. And so now it's just part of who I am. And I love that we just I just love getting to interact, and the longer I've been doing this, the more involved in the community you get. It just kind of, it's this thing that you just keep doing. And now I've kind of pulled back from probably playing most of the other games. I was playing a little bit of Battle for Azeroth when it came out, but really my game is Hearthstone now, and there's not really too much else anymore.
So, you stream, Hearthstone's kind of your game. Like, how much time would you say it occupies in your day? I'm just curious. Too much, right?
Probably more than it maybe should, but yeah, I mean, I I would love, and yet I'd still love to play more or think about it more. But even when I'm not playing, it seems like I'm trying to read articles and interact with the community, if nothing else.
So, so,
I,
so you seem like you're not very daunted by the quote unquote apparent alleged staleness of the meta. You seem like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna play. I like playing.
I feel like it's something that seems to happen every expansion, and I guess I
Yeah.
get comfortable with an expansion when other people get bored with an expansion. And I prefer being comfortable than being kind of unsure of myself. It seems like it takes me 2 months, because like I don't know if it's because of my not of card game background, or as extensive a card game background, but it just feels like it takes me longer than other people to get comfortable in a meta, or in a situation. And so I usually don't get bored with
Hmm. I like that perspective. I think that's a lot of people. I honestly kind of find myself finding it getting into that boat too. Usually, it takes like a month or two before I really have the meta down pat. And then of course something will change. It's like, well,
it. Yeah.
back to the drawing board.
Then we get balance patches, and it looked like that was we were gonna get a full run here, but then things change.
Yeah, well, that's next week. They're gonna drop some kind of bomb, and we'll see what happens. So tell me about the first time you hit Legend, and like what that was like, what kind of deck you used, and like maybe even how like was it a grind, or did it feel easy? Things like that.
So the first time I hit Legend was September of last year, 2017. That was the month of actually balance changes to Innervate and Spreading Plague were the two big ones. Fiery War Axe as well. I had the previous high that I had gotten was rank 1, and in June using Evolve Shaman. And right after the Druid nerfs, I remember Evolve Shaman got really popular for about that first week or so, week to 10 days after that. And I went from rank 5. I had gotten to rank 5 before the balance patch hit. And I got from 5 to 2 with Evolve Shaman. And I after that point, I kind of stalled for a few days before kind of falling back to rank 3. And I was like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna get there. And it was literally like the the end of the month. And so it was on the 28th, 2 days before the end of the month, was talking to somebody that comes by this stream a lot. His name's Marty, and he suggested playing Tempo Rogue. It was starting to get really popular then. Kelliseth, high end was Lich King in there as well.
Oh,
Bone
yeah, I know
Mares,
that deck.
When
all
Bone
that
Mare
good
was
stuff.
not 8.
Yes, when
I hit
Bone Mare
legend with
was
that deck.
yes,
That deck's awesome.
that deck was so fantastic. He's like, but and it was like, I want to try it because I want to try and push with that maybe next month. And I proceeded to that first night I co-opt with him some games
Okay.
and went like 10-2 with the deck and went from
Whoa.
rank 3 to rank 1. And so Friday the 29th, I actually was home from work. I think I win loss, and then won 4 straight to hit legend. It was absolutely kind of just, I'd given up on the possibility that it was going to happen, and then it just sort of happened because I found the deck and just went.
How did that
Sweet.
change your perspective? Because I can relate to those feelings. I remember the first time I'd hit legend, I'd probably hit rank 1 multiple times, rank 2, rank 1, fairly regularly leading up to the first time I hit it. And I remember thinking, like, the last couple days of the season going, no, there's just not time. I don't want to put myself through this only to feel that sting of failure. So I hear what you're saying. Then it just kind of happens, right? Just like before you
Yeah.
know it, you're like looking at an orange crystal and you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
I'm like, holy, this just happened. I can't believe this. And
Mhm.
like, so I'm like texting my wife, and she like literally called me back because she was at work, I was at home, and she's like, calls me back, and she's like, oh my God, thank you for being as excited about this as I am, because
I was glad when my wife
Ah.
actually celebrated a little bit with me. She didn't really grasp it. She just knew the effort that went into it, which is enough in pretty much every stretch.
I
would
still
like
don't think I'm. I've only managed. So I've hit legend 4 times, 3 times since then, and I'm
Uh-huh.
still pretty kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Well, I have ladder anxiety, and so even in this last attempt in July, when I was able to hit it, I once you get to like rank 2 and rank 1, I typically every month this year I seem to hit rank 1, rank 2,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time I'm not necessarily getting legend, and so I get nervous when I get to that point. Not quite to the level that first time, but still, I definitely still feel the butterflies.
No, I
So
hear you there.
we have a good we're at a good pacing for this, but I feel like we got to know you a good amount, and we're gonna get to know you a little bit more within the discussion today with
Okay.
regards to kind of your opinions. So let's just do some quick rapid fire questions, Grant, and then we'll wrap up the
Yeah.
interview there.
All right, here we go. Ready? Favorite
All right.
Hearthstone deck can be current and then all time, or it could be both, depending. What's your favorite deck?
Okay, favorite deck currently is probably Death Rattle or Cube Hunter.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of trouble right now making some headway on the ladder, but that deck I seem to be doing pretty well with. And all time, I think it's Zoolock, the original Zoo Warlock that has actually 2 drops in it with Knife Jugglers, Direwolf Alphas, Imp Gang
Yeah.
Boss, and then you'd
Implosion.
Leroy Power Overwhelming for lethal.
Mm.
I really like that deck.
I've been an advocate for Zoolock with direwolves every single time because it's like it doesn't feel like Zoo unless there's a direwolf alpha in it. It's just like I can't play it.
That was the
story.
that deck was the first time I hit rank 10, and
Okay.
and that was like the first like legitimate, I think, meta deck that I was able to put together. Being pretty inexpensive and
Sure.
stuff, and so yeah, I do like Murloc Paladin though.
Ooh.
That's probably my second favorite deck, and
Mm.
I did pretty well with it. I hit legend actually back-to-back months using that deck, but it was after the first the war leader nerf, so it was earlier this year.
So when you talk Murloc Paladin, you're not talking anything Paladin. You're talking like
No.
Murloc, like Tempo Megasaur Paladin.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm talking Tempo Megasaur Murloc Paladin.
Okay, I just want to make sure if you guys are looking in the
I
archives
I tried to
of the
play
decks
the
out there.
infant version, and I kept running into the mirror match, and
it was not
the
fun.
and I wasn't. I didn't. It's like the token druid mirror
Yeah.
right now, where you play chicken with the Eddie Finn, and I never seem to do that correct.
Okay. All right, favorite
what's your
card
favorite
back
class?
And oh, sorry, I skipped one. Great, go ahead.
Yeah. Favorite class? Like, what's your class that you like to jam with?
I think it's Warlock actually. It's because of the Zoolock, and I like especially right now. It's so versatile. It can play. You can do. You could definitely do control. You can obviously do some tempo things there with, like, say, even lock right now too. And the hero power just being absolutely ridiculous. It was the last class I unlocked when I unlocked the 9 classes, because I just, as a new player, could not grasp the concept of card advantage and using my health as a resource. But playing enough Zoo Warlock, you gotta get the handle on that.
You only need 2 health to win the game. That was my motto playing Zoolock.
I like it. That should be a t-shirt.
Yep.
You only need 2 health to win. All right. Favorite card back?
There's a lot of really good ones. Of the ones that I have, I would say I'm pretty partial to the Hearth S'mores card back, the one with the campfire and the s'mores. It's kind of a fun one. I really want to get the Dalaran Flame card back. That
was my favorite, but
yeah, that one is my favorite, but I don't actually have that in my collection.
So I'm sorry we have to end the show because Mage-a-Death is now off of it because he didn't say it was the Lemonade card back. I'm sorry, but the show's over.
Oh, so up until yesterday's stream, I had basically been playing the Lemonade card back for basically since we got it, and so yeah, it was.
It doesn't matter. You missed your one opportunity, Mage-a-Death. It's over. It's
so what's your
shame?
What's your favorite card?
So I was actually looking through, and I actually really like the Lich King, and it's just because it's a good card. It is a powerful card. It's got a lot of flavor and lore baked into it from World of Warcraft. Its entrance onto the board is fantastic. There's a little bit of RNG in there because of the random Death Knight card that you get. I think it encapsulates all the things I kind of like about Hearthstone, and kind of, if there was a card to me that just kind of is like, and then it's the Timmy thing too, where it's an 8/8 that just pound them right in the face too. I really like
Team
that
5 really killed it with that card design, man, in every aspect. That card is just fantastic.
It's one of the few cards I've ever considered having in Golden, just because it just looks dope in Golden with like the blizzard in the background.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sad when it rotates to Wild, and I don't play Wild as much as I play Standard. So
that's a card I could definitely see them not like rotate. Like, you know what they're talking about right now, which is like putting cards into the neutral set, right, and to replace the old ones. I can see them taking like set-based cards and moving them in. That could be pretty cool.
It's a very balanced card. It's a very appropriate card.
It feels fair. Like, if I'm gonna lose to a Lich King, it doesn't feel as bad to me as some other cards that are currently out there.
Unless you're a Shutterwalk player and you Lich King and you get Death Grip and then you pull their Shutterwalk out of their deck, then it's which is my favorite thing to do. Okay, moving on. What is your favorite non-Hearthstone, non-gaming activity? Like, what do you do when you're not like jamming games?
I'm a big baseball fan, so if I am not doing something Hearthstone related, it's probably baseball related.
What's your favorite team?
Hometown team, the Twins, the Minnesota Twins, and so yeah, it's just, but it doesn't have to be the Twins. It can be any 2 teams, it doesn't matter. I'll watch college baseball. I'll watch high school baseball. I love the game so much that it doesn't really matter who's playing. It's just beautiful.
Did you have you ever played? Did you used to play?
I played in high school. I played in Legion, and when you get older, I play the softball
Play
version.
softball. That's okay. A lot of guys,
Gentleman's game.
a lot of people do that. Cool.
So-
All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea, green tea.
Oh.
Favorite book?
Favorite book, baseball related, Moneyball by Michael Lewis. It's about the Oakland A's and how they unconventionally went to the playoffs a few years ago, and they made a movie about it. Brad Pitt's in it, and the movie's solid too, but the book is fantastic.
Cool. Favorite movies? Related.
I have several, but
Just pick
I
one you
think
like a lot then.
the one I like the best, I think, is the original Jurassic Park movie.
Ooh.
Again, a book I've read. I love the book, but I
Mm.
really like the movie.
Sugar
They're
girl.
just well casted, well shot, good script. And then the dinosaurs. I mean, come on.
They spared no expense.
Yes, spared no expense.
All right. Well, let's should we move on, Rob, and
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
go
people
ahead.
who are sponsoring us, and then get into
So
the
we have a quick little ad here from our sponsors. Thank you so much to Jamie S. on patreon.com/ValensChosen for helping us out every week, presenting content to you guys. You can support us monthly by heading over there to that link and choosing any amount that you wish. At the certain amount, you can get a shout out every episode, and at other amounts, you can get a shout out when you pledge. There are other perks there. We're also looking for advice and anything that you guys are looking to get out of your creators through Patreon. We're open to suggestions. Right now, one of the major things is that anytime there's something lore related to the show, Eve gives you a raw file right away. So you guys can get that on the Patreon any number of weeks before I decide to sit my butt and edit on it and then get it out to the other people. What we've been doing is just backlogging them. And when we can't make it a week where scheduling is a nightmare for all of us, then we just post that. So anyways, if you're looking to do that, patreon.com/ValensChosen podcast. And then we have a very special message from MTG Arena. Grant, take it away.
Yeah. So in case you've been in the dark, MTG Arena was released in beta about 2.5-ish weeks ago.
Yep.
And I've been playing it and been enjoying it. It's kind of for me, it scratches my itch of playing Magic without having to go down to the card shop on Friday night. Kind of the same way Hearthstone does. It's a real cool game. It's very, very, very similar to regular tabletop Magic. Same mechanics, same order of play. It's got what I like about it is that you can play it and it kind of does things for you. Like it taps your cards and untaps your cards for you. It kind of highlights your the stuff you take in turn. So Major Death, you're talking about is like some of the procedural things, maybe some of the rules in Magic were like hard to get. I feel like MTG kind of satisfies that problem or fixes that problem a little bit if you were unclear about stuff. It's really cool because with all the interaction you can do in the game, just like real Magic, you can interact and it kind of gives you, hey, do you want to do this thing that you could possibly do? So it kind of helps you not fall asleep at the wheel. So that's pretty neat. I found out when I was playing it, I explored the how to craft things and build cards, and you can craft cards. And the cool thing is a lot of the cards that exist in paper, they're on the game. So you can anywhere from spell or sorcery to planeswalkers, things like that.
Artifacts.
It has the same kind of artifacts. Yeah, it has the same kind of system of rarity, like mythic, rare, rare, and things like that.
Yeah.
It's very neat.
I was looking at this too when I was checking out the game myself, and they have something that is a very common, I would say, tabletop argument that you might have when you're playing the game. And arguments when you're playing Magic or playing tabletop games in a whole is just usually like if people are trying to rules lure you out of something you thought was super cool in your own mind, that you're like, I'm pretty sure
Right.
this is how it'll work. And in Hearthstone, it's like you put the card down, you have instant feedback. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. But like in MTG Arena, it's something similar, but there's something as simple as resetting your mana in Hearthstone is something that we take for granted, because when you're playing MTG, you have to use what's called a land-based system. And in the land, you have to do what's called tapping, or basically using the mana. And you can only play 1 mana per turn, but you also have to draw it. So if you don't draw the mana, then you don't get it. And so that's why MTG drawing is a lot like more common, and drawing cards is way better, because sometimes you just brick on your draws. You're like, I just drew like 9 lands out of my crazy draw engine. So the cool thing about this is not only does it allow you to, when you spend your mana to play a card, let's say you use 2 mana and they're black mana, and I played my swamps out for black, then it will, let's say I have 5 swamps and I play a 2 black card, it will automatically turn or tap / use your mana for you. And then when it rolls back around to your turn, it will automatically untap all of the stuff that you used, just like Hearthstone does with the mana crystals. And this is actually kind of a big issue when you're kind of do these complicated plays late game on a tabletop, because if you're not remembering to move your mana back, your opponent can really catch you and try to, like, you know, get you out. You're like, your mana's all tapped. How do you not? It's like, oh, I didn't do it at the start of the game or at the start of my turn. And it's like, well, you already did a bunch of stuff with the untapped mana. How do I know you're not cheating? So it's kind of stuff like that, where it kind of just like cheating proof type mechanics, just basic video game things are not basic when it comes to tabletop stuff.
Right.
So I think that the MTG Arena did a really good transition there to help players who are not used to it kind of get understanding that. And then it also plays good homage to the tabletop rule lawyers out there, because they're like, oh, it's so nice, I don't have to do this anymore.
Right. And I taught my daughter Lizzie how to play it. Like, she's 9.
Oh, that's cool.
And she got it. She understood it. I just had to explain to her how it was a little different from Hearthstone. But she understood it, and she could function in a game, and she cleared some of the tutorial for me.
That's nice.
So it was kind of cool. So and the thing is about this game is it is free to download. You don't have to pay any money. And you can just they give you some pre-made decks to play with of different colors, because there's a green deck and a red deck and a black deck, and I think it's all the color families. I ran blue just because I was like, I want to play blue. Just felt in the mood to control somebody. And it was really cool. If you would like to check it out further, you can head on over to www.magic.wizards.com/en for English /MTG Arena.
And if you want to play MTG Arena in your local language, you can change the EN to your appropriate language thing. FR for French, and Spanish, I believe, is SP. And I don't know if they have a Japanese version yet, but if they do, it's the JP is the thing there. CN is Chinese.
They've kind of said they're working on that stuff, more to be coming. So cool.
All right.
Get into the news.
Let's get into the news. So right away, we have the Tavern Brawl right now, which is Boss Battle Royale 2. So you choose a class, and then they have a random associated boss with your class. Rogues, I know, is Grobulus, and mages are the Curator.
No, yeah.
Mages are the Curator, but I don't remember what the other ones are. I believe the Warriors are Corn Direbrew.
Yeah, that's Warrior. And Paladin's the chess set, which is it was a misplay on my part. I tried to clear a Paladin quest. I'm like, I'll just play Paladin, and it was the chess thing. I'm like, dang.
I had a nuts turn today, right in the pre-show, playing Grobulus against a Skelosaurus Rex, which I think is the Hunter one. And he played that secret because the Skelosaurus Rex gives you a 0-cost card at random, and he got like the one secret that I never play around, which is the one that gives a minion freaking Divine Shield when you attack it. But he put down a Divine Shield minion before, and so it didn't trigger when I attacked it, and then I attacked it the next turn to try to kill it, and I'm like, this is so dumb. And then like he gets the minions out, and like basically clears me out on my board, but he had played a Vine Cleaver, and I had 4 mana, and I had an Ooze in my hand, and after he attacked with the Vine Cleaver, he had 2 1/1s, and his minion had turned into a 4. It was a 4/2, and I had a Leper Gnome on board, So I hit the 4-2 to make it a 4-1, used the hero power, which does 1 damage to all minions and summons a 2/2 ooze for each one. Then I played the
Nice.
ooze and got rid of the Vine Cleaver. And then what he didn't know is that I had a 0-cost Valley Ghost that he gave me, and I dropped that sucker on top of it. And I waited for a good 10 seconds to realize my opponent quit the game.
Rage quit.
So what did you guys think of this before we jump into our discussion here?
Go ahead, Mage Death. I'll talk after you.
So I tried Druid because Druid actually is King Togwaggle, which I think is different than it was from the first
Yeah.
boss battle. And I lost my first game with it. I did these on stream, and then I played a second game and won. And those treasures, getting the 3 Ragnaros fireball shots.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
And I played it after I was able to I had played a card that reduced the mana cost of all the cards that
Boots of Haste
didn't start my deck or something. So it was like reduced in price as well. It was absolutely crazy.
That's awesome.
But so I kind of like it. The shaman one that has the passive end of turn, all the minions evolve by
Lady
1
Nazgir.
mana crystal. That's what I played on the EU account to get the win there, and that one's
That
fun
sounds
too.
fun.
You just try and get on the board, and there's got a lot of token generation cards in that deck.
Sure.
And the first time I think it took me 2 attempts to do that one as well. And the opponent that first game was, I think, a warrior, and isn't their passive that they randomly pull a minion out
Yeah,
for each side?
for both sides.
Deck,
Yep.
yeah.
The first 2 times the opponent pulled a minion out, it was a Kraken on my
Oh
side.
my word. Free 10
Feels
mana.
And yet I
bad,
still
man.
lost. So that
Whoa.
doesn't suggest to me that it was
Yeah.
terrible.
They got a
It was
patron on me, and they just destroyed me because I had a
Oh,
bunch of
gosh.
whirlwind stuff, and it was over.
That'll do it.
I like if they're gonna be like prearranged sort of brawls where you don't build your own deck. I like things like this that are definitely much different than the normal sort of situations.
Hmm.
Grant?
I just played the shaman one because it felt real bad to lose to I don't remember what I lost to with the knights and stuff, and then I played against somebody again. I don't remember what deck I was playing. Oh, I did the rogue. I did Grobulus and just got pwned by Lady Nazjar. I'm like, all right, shaman it
Ooh.
is. And so I tried that, and Lady Nazjar is so busted because all you just put junk on the field and it becomes an amazing thing. So it's
Just
like,
vomit your hand, and you're like, oh, get rewarded.
I don't
Hey.
even care. I'm just gonna spam the board and then I can just win. So yeah,
Card
I did
advantage,
my
Omega
3
lol.
and done. But I want to try the
you got
Togwaggle one.
you got like wisps and like
Oh my
penguins in there, and so you just throw those out there and
Yep.
Profit.
I like roulette type of decks like that. It's just kind of fun to see what do we get. Woo! Roll
Oh,
the dice.
dear.
There you go.
Okay,
Anyhow,
well, Vicious Syndicate released something this week with regards to an article thinking that it would be really good for them to put this out on Reddit as well, which also gave it a lot of increased traffic. And it was a hot button topic within the podcasting sphere, within the Twitter sphere discussion, and especially with some of the more popular streamers and players and stuff. And this was posted on October 8th, so this is relatively recent, but again, our recording is not like right after this. So we've been have a few days to kind of stew over this and discuss it with friends and talk internally. But it boils down to a few things here that they say in their introduction. And we're not going to try to do what they do, which is use statistics in a read-only and graph medium that's really visual on a podcasting sphere and talk about statistics with you, because this would just be we would lose you guys so fast. So what we're going to be doing is talking about more of the principles of the article and kind of things there. So let me just read their intro here to give you guys some context, okay? So they say, the Boomsday project has ushered in a meta that's quite similar to Witchwood. After the balance changes, the meta has relatively balanced in terms of power levels. No deck seems to be too powerful, and both ladder and tournament formats are filled with very different and diverse strategies. The meta is so quote-unquote healthy that Team 5 has decided to skip balance changes in this expansion. And then I'm going to put it as a disclaimer as so far, because I'm pretty sure that's what they're meaning here, not even though they didn't explicitly say it. Although a lot of the community would disagree with me there, I believe that this is what their direction is, as they were deemed to be unnecessary. So again, keep in mind, they're not trying to pot shot Team 5 here. They're just saying this is what our interpretation is of what they've given us as feedback as a player base, and so we're making this assumption. And yet, despite the current state of Hearthstone meta, players don't find Boomsday to be that enjoyable. Now, this is where things start to deviate and where we're going to have a lot of opinions, okay? We can see signs of possible loss of interest through different metrics, such as streams viewership, Google Trends in search patterns, and games tracked in the Data Reaper. Though we cannot claim 100% certainty that there is a decline in the player population. So what's wrong? Obviously, there are issues close to the community's heart that have been neglected, the primary one being the lack of new features to freshen up the game. And again, these are a lot of assumptions that are being written in here, so just keep these in mind, okay? Let's see, I lost my place. New features to freshen up the game. We are not here to discuss that, so they're very clear about what they're not going to discuss, okay? We're here because despite looking at the healthy surface, the meta does not have a glaring problem that can be fully grasped by a deck win rate or a play win rate alone, or play rates alone. You may have heard common complaints about matchups feeling too, quote-unquote, polarizing, hence the article title, in the current meta, and the sense of hopelessness when you queue into the wrong opponent. The rock, paper, scissors sentiment was brought up numerous times throughout Hearthstone's history, but does Boomsday truly stand out from the other metas? So to answer the question, they've developed metric systems here in the article to measure the meta polarity. And their goal is to create a metric that accomplishes two things: to provide numbers that can easily be compared across different metagames. So they're looking as a holistic approach across different metagames, when and before and after card nerfs and card changes and card sets being released. And then number two, to make it simple enough to understand and immediately apply some context to it. Now, before we jump into any of this, when you look at statistics, you have to understand that they are statistics and that anything that you gather is where you're finding hard numbers. And outside of that, what you interpret from those numbers will be what you interpret and not necessarily the numbers. So to equate your opinions of the numbers to the numbers as saying both of these are factual pieces of information when one of them is subjective and the other is fact is not something you really want to go with. So what I mean is that anytime you try to pull a subjective opinion out of something that is a hard number and equate your opinions because it's backed by fact doesn't make your subjective opinion true. It just makes it have increased support. This is what you have when you write any sort of like paper. You can have like all of the best sources and have a really crappy opinion on your sources and just go into the echo chamber of your paper and like write it down.
It's called corroboration.
Yes. So does it strengthen their argument? Absolutely. Does it give them some basics to stand on? Sure. And that's why this article exists. And so we just want to make sure that we're kind of covering our bases here and making sure that we maintain that Vicious Syndicate is doing great work by producing something like this and giving us some context. But again, even their numbers aren't concrete. It's concrete numbers with returns to who is contributing data, but doesn't represent the entire player base. And that's why they always want to make sure that you guys understand that in their outset of their articles. So I want to cover their bases before and our bases at the same time before we start discussing this, okay? I'm not sure a lot of other creators do that, but I waste my time on purpose, okay? All right. So what does this mean for us? So basically there's a couple things here that I really want to kind of pull interest on. So what they're saying here is that there's a percentile difference of about 20% or 19.05% to be exact within the Boomsday project with how different a game outcome can be between getting matched up with two decks, like how strong a deck can be when they're favored. That's kind of the idea of polarity. It's a polar end of the stick. Like if I'm playing, I don't know, Grant, give us a good meta example right now of like two really bad matchups for you.
A really bad matchup. Let's see here. Well, Hunter is really good against Odd Warrior, but let's see. Let's go do a better one. How about Quest Rogue versus any control deck?
Anything control.
Any
Okay.
control deck?
Mage-a-Death, can you think of anything right now on this given meta?
Well, yeah, I guess when you brought a Quest Rogue, you think about it's really good matchup is any control deck. Like Odd Warrior tends to be the one that gets brought up,
feasts on.
and then Burn Mage or Tempo Mage being on the exact opposite end, where it's like that is supposed to be the hard counter to Quest Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what they're saying is that it's not just favored, because when you have something that's favored, it means that you're 51 and they're 49 type of a percentile. That would be
Minimum.
a 1% favored minimum, right? And so what they're saying is that back in Wrath of the Old Whispers of the Old Gods, the polarity index by virtue of their data was about 10. And now it's up to almost 20. And it steadily rose and then kind of dropped off at Knights of the Frozen Throne. And then like exponentially rose up to Richwood before, and even after the nerfs, people were like, this is kind of like not that much better. And that's what their data is trying to reflect in their opinions of saying these things. Now, the one thing that I want to make sure here that we're really discussing is the opinions of this piece are really pushing the agenda that polarity is the main issue with Hearthstone right now. So when you look at the game and you look at why you're upset, right? They said at the very outset, despite the current state of the Hearthstone meta, players don't find it to be very enjoyable. We see signs of possible loss or interest in different other metrics such as stream viewership, Google Trends, and search patterns, and games tracked in the Data Reaper, though we cannot claim with 100% certainty that there's a decline in the player base. What's wrong? Obviously, there's certain issues in the community's heart that have been neglected, primarily being the lack of new features to freshen up the game. So they're really saying at the outset that that's probably what the issue is, but if that's not what Team 5's looking at, then this polarity thing is the next big, skeleton in the closet that they need to deal with.
Well, and the other thing is they're probably kind of hinting at that polarity seems like a bigger issue than maybe it may be because people are bored with it. So a fresh thing will distract you from a polarity issue. You know what I mean? I think everybody thought that the Hearthstone Messiah was going to be a quote unquote tournament mode, and well, we didn't get that, so now let's really focus on why we don't like the game. It's like, well, there could be a lot of reasons. I don't think polarity is necessarily the reason, but I think it's a factor, or the perception of polarity.
So,
I mean, they have data, but you might play.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
Grant. Sorry,
I was going to
the
say
latency is getting us today.
The latency. You might get you might play polar matches. Like I've had this experience where I try a new deck and I just queue into things and I just start winning. And I don't perceive polarity at that point in time because maybe I just had a better draw. Maybe they had maybe theirs was just an awful draw. Or maybe I just played better. I don't know. Or maybe some decks just click with me better than others. Maybe they're trying a new deck for the first time too and just don't know what they're doing. And you win and you start playing. You say, hey, I'm winning. This is great. This deck's awesome. And it takes a couple days to sink in that the polarity might be a problem. Like, oh, well, maybe this deck isn't so good. So, I mean, is that actually a major factor? I don't know. But anyways, go ahead, Rob.
So I'm just going to be the guy that says to you guys this week what Eve wrote to us in our internal chat. So here's what she said. She says, I feel like right now there's a lot of talk recently about what people are assuming that everyone else feels in the same way that they do. They enjoy exactly what they enjoy, and so it's wrong when the game is objectively wrong to everyone. So let me say that again because this is kind of confusing. I feel like there's a lot of talk recently where people are assuming that everyone else feels the same way that they do, enjoys exactly what they enjoy, and so what is wrong with the game is objectively wrong to everyone. Like it's an obvious puzzle that's been solved, and Team 5 is oblivious or ignoring it being, or just straight up being condescending to the community. And then she furthers this by saying all of the discussion forums available resemble an echo chamber, kind of like with a bunch of like-minded folks agreeing with each other and solidifying all of the other views, whether this be Discord chatter, whether this be Reddit, whether this be Twitter. And then this will ignore the possibility of an entire percentile of the player base that may not feel that way or have a voice of doing so, or literally doesn't have a voice to contribute because they don't care enough to say something. This is compounded on the issue that is increasingly difficult to speak up and disagree without getting shouted out of the conversation. And she says that she doesn't like the pervading attitude that players seem to have, thinking that they can design better than the devs. That being a minimum amount of information and strong feelings that are certain to, that with a minimum amount of information and strong feelings, they are certain, no matter how many times they've been proven wrong, that they can do better. It smacks of arrogance paired with ignorance. Feelings outside the game are bleeding into the games that we play and how we feel, talk, and play them. So I felt like Eve kind of wrapped up her thoughts really succinctly and very much in the kind of like a jam-packed way that you can kind of unpack if you went back here. But what do you guys think of this? Because I feel like I have a hard time disagreeing with any of this. But again, we don't want to be a podcast of an echo chamber just agreeing with Eve, right?
Well, I'm sorry. I agree with pretty much everything she said. And in fact, I was talking to people today. Like I was thinking one of my least favorite things in the world that happens, and I guess it's because I live in Texas, and I guess because football is the unacknowledged god around here. One of the things that drives me nuts is what we call armchair quarterbacking. You know what I mean?
Armchair anything.
You have people, usually men, but people who will tell you everything a football coach should have done. Oh, well, they lost because, and
with retrospect,
I think they should have. They get to look at it hindsight, from the sky. They get to watch replays. They get to hash it out. They get to listen to the talking heads on TV talking about the game, and they get to sit back in their comfort of their house, not being under any kind of stress, not be under any kind of financial gain or loss, based on whether they win or lose, and they get to talk about what the coach should have done. Oh, well, they should have done this and they should have done that. Like, I have no patience for that, and everybody kind of does it to a point, right? We all kind of do it in different ways. So I guess you could say I'm sensitive to it. I'm probably mildly hypocritical when I say this too. So don't at me, bro. But the Hearthstone community has caused me to reevaluate like everyday things, but the truth of the matter is when it comes to game design and stuff like that, unless you're the boots on the ground doing the job, you don't know. You don't know what's going on. There's so many. The world is a complicated place that we live in, and to try and make it oversimplify it is just kind of an arrogant thing to do. Well, I'm just so smart. I'm going to tell you how simple your job is. I'm an expert in
Let me tell you what your job description is from the outside.
And as a teacher, I deal with that a lot. Let me tell you what you're doing wrong and how easily you're going to fix it because you're just going to do what I want to do. It's like, no, that's not the way it works here.
You want to know what's even funnier is teaching English as a second language to people and having a JTE tell you that your grammar's wrong. That will really try your patience.
English grammar is wrong?
Yeah. They'll tell you, and I'm like, listen, there's conversational English and there's written English. And so when some teachers have a disagreement, like where they're talking about grading a paper and they ask me, like, well, what's right? And I'm like, both are right. And they're like, how can both be right? And I'm just like, well, because one of them is written and one is conversational. It's like, well, is the answer the written one because it's a written test? And I was like, no, because the answer can be both in a written test based off of the fact that you're asking it in a casual format in like a conversation. Like it's a conversational question. Like, where did Judas go for dinner? And they're like, I don't know. This is a terrible example, but that's just something fun. Look, I'm going to toss it to
name Judas.
I don't know. Let's go to Mage-a-Death before I embarrass myself some
What
more.
a non-typical name. Your poor Japanese students. They probably think everybody over here is named Judas now.
Yeah, next to my buddy Iscariot. All right, no, Mage-a-Death, bail me out here, man.
Yeah.
Not that you can.
I really liked what Eve said. I definitely, and again, I think this comes back to my lack of experience playing card games. I don't think I know better than Team 5, right? I mean, I can have opinions, and I try and share that it's based on how I feel or my perspective, and tend to sometimes look at what other people are saying to see if they can articulate what I'm feeling in a better, more succinct way than I can say it, or because I'm having trouble exactly pinpointing what it is I'm thinking. I think I think that's healthy. I think that's something that you can do. It's the issue of when it starts to be that echo chamber and when it starts to feed off, and then it starts to get negative, and then it starts to get, kind of vicious, and that it really starts to get ugly. And I definitely, I don't know how people can go there, but I mean,
Sure.
it seems like it happens, and it's really kind of crazy to me that it can get that way, because there is so many factors at play that make up, like, the metagame, or politics, or whatever it is that this is happening in. And it's just, it definitely does feel like, the what was her comments, arrogance paired with ignorance. It just feels like, how can you actually say that and come across like that? Because you're not an expert.
There's something too that I've found to be pretty common, because I've been reading a lot of forums, not just within Hearthstone, but basically I feel like if you're inundated with playing a lot of games in the Blizzard sphere, the community doesn't really change a lot game to game as far as their response to things. There's a big hot button issue within Battle for Azeroth right now with regards to class balancing, shipping classes kind of half-baked until they have what's called 8.1, which is the next major patch update. And Azerite armor traits, which is kind of their new thing. And then within Overwatch, people are always armchair balance changing and saying this hero's busted and Doomfist is the worst hero to ever hit the game. And it's like, he got adjusted because he was slightly too strong, and then they realized that everything in his kit, after they made this hitbox change, has just broken him until now. And then all of these other issues start coming up, and now he's like number one pick in the meta, him and Sombra. And it's like, if you would have told me 3 months ago that Doomfist Sombra would have been the meta for DPS, I would have laughed in your face. It's just like there's all these things, and people are just like, this is balance, this is balance, this is balance, and this is not. And it's like, some of these are in those games, I feel like, are a little bit more easy to parse, because you have other things at play other than just like cards and decks and popularity and playing something and hitting in turn. It's just like there's hitbox related issues, there's ping related issues, there's bug fixes that, like, if I throw this thing at this very specific spot, I literally can't hit them. And if I uppercut somebody and I'm like a frame off on my timing, I miss the entire thing just because of a bug. Like, those are type of things that happen in fighting games too. And then if you run over to Heroes of the Storm, like, that's probably like League of Legends type games, or what are they called? MOBAs are very, very similar to how people talk about balance changes within Hearthstone. I feel like if you're looking at that, because it's a little bit more linear, and with regards to abilities and numbers, like cards and power. But getting back to the thing at hand, people are saying that the game is so much this way, and the community saying their opinions, even when they're not intending to be ignorant, when they're not intending to be an armchair game designer, when they're like that type of an environment with ignorance and aggressiveness. The most appalling thing to me isn't the fact that they're doing something like that, because I feel like at our worst, anyone is capable of doing something like that.
Sure.
Especially when you're just like, I just lost 10 games in a row to this stupid deck, and I've queued against 5 different decks, and I'm losing because of polarity in all of these. I've like hit the low end of the polarity against a deck I'm favored against losing, and I have like a 20% up chance that when I'm favored, I have even more of a chance to win, and I'm losing. And then when I get paired at somebody that I'm favored to win, and I finally win, it like doesn't even feel good because it's just easy. And they're saying, well, the polarity must be the issue. And it goes back to me is like, when they're being aggressive, it's more telling to me when they are ignorant to the tone that they're communicating. Because when you say these things and you're being an armchair thing, it's really hard to be careful, especially in a text-based only medium, without facial and verbal cues in your native tongue, because this is also across the board with other languages and localization issues, where people are communicating their opinions and they don't see that they're being aggressive and ignorant. Because nobody feels like they're just willful. Like, no one is willfully ignorant. I would say that. Like, being willfully ignorant on something is just something that people just do to take pot shots and be dumb. It's like drunk conversation kind of an idea, right?
That's a good point. You know, there's a there's a lot of skill, and I learned this just because of my job, to be able to communicate with people, get your point across, and not sound like you're accosting them with your words. You know what I mean? In a printed medium, that takes a lot of practice and time and experience to think about. You know how you come across, and it's a thing that people need to learn, especially if you work in the professional world in any way. You have to always consider, how does this come across, how could this be perceived, because sometimes you can open up a can that you didn't mean to open up. I think in a non-filtered, there's no gateway or no gatekeepers for Reddit. I mean, I guess you can have mods, but I don't know, based on what Reddit kind of is. I doubt that there's much modding, if you will. Here's another thing I was thinking about is, do you ever think that maybe people are dissatisfied with Hearthstone because maybe the game's been around for 4 years now? And, like everything, if you do something seriously for 4 years, you're going to have points in time where you're like, you know what? I don't want to play right now. I'm okay with not playing the game. You know what I mean? Like, or I don't want to play the game. I think the rub is, if you invest 4 years of time and money into something, you feel like you should be getting something in return,
I
right?
feel like
Almost
you've
like
earned your
an
progression.
investment. It's like, should I be getting interest on this game? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because but that's not how games are, right? Any game, you pay a cost to play, whether it's a carnival game, a sport,
And
a
if it's
video
free
game.
to play, it's your time.
When we were all kids, you went and paid your $50 to Target, took the game off the shelf and took it home, and that was that. You know what I mean? And you got as much or as little out of it as you wanted to. I think the difference is that there was no such thing as balance changes and updates and stuff like that for a cartridge or a disc. You know what I mean?
Until Xbox
And so
rolled
nobody
around,
ever
yeah.
thought that way. But nowadays it's a different world, and so people think they can do that. And so whereas maybe somebody who's experienced that, like, yeah, games run their course. That happens. You know what I mean? Not video games are not intended to be eternal. No pun. And I'm not marketing the other game. Oh, MTG. No, it's joking.
Major Death, what do you think about all this stuff, man?
I hadn't even thought about it in regards to like the game cartridge versus the constant investment that you put into a game. I definitely feel like, because of the all the new cards that come out, all the expansions, and the constant need to put in something in order to get something out of the game, it feels like there's definitely a sense of entitlement that comes along with that. It's that I've put my money into this, so this is what I think I should get from this, or I put this much time in, so this is what I think I should get from it. And really, what you are getting by doing this is that enjoyment, or that the kind of the, as you're playing right now, that's what you're paying for with your time, with your money, that sort of thing. And you shouldn't expect something else beyond that. And I think because the game now is 4 years old, and like, you have people with there's probably a lot of people with a lot of card game experience, from Magic and other games too, that it does sort of feel like they think, well, I know what the problem is. And so it maybe when the game was just starting out, it was like, well, we're still kind of new to this thing, and it's maybe there's some other things at play that I'm not thinking about. But now it's like, well, I put my money in, and so I expect this, and I'm not getting this, so this has to be the problem, because I've been playing since the beta, and that's not how things used to be, and that sort of thing. And so I definitely think it kind of extends into other realms as well, and it just kind of seems like it's bleeding over into video games in general, and how people what people expect.
Mm.
You know, it's an interesting human notion. Let's put it this way. When I was in music school, and I might have told this on the show before. If I did, I think it was a while back, so maybe it's out of people's memory. But I was told in music school, so my goal was to be, I want to get good at music and I want to go play in a symphony orchestra, and that's my day job, go play with the Houston Symphony or whatever. And I was told by my professors, if you just work hard, you'll accomplish your goal. That's half true. So those of you who are out there in the listening world, let me tell you let me mask it here. If you just work hard, you have a better chance of achieving your goal. There's no guarantee you will achieve your goal if you work by just merely working hard and putting your all into something. Okay? Stuff can happen, life can happen. People make decisions not based on one's skill or abilities and things like that. That's the world. The problem is that people think that if I do X thing, then I should get X result. And they're told that by people in different facets of their life. And so why wouldn't they approach a game that way? So I think it's those of us who have worked really hard for something and not achieved it and given our all that are more willing to accept that. And I think there's just a lot of people out there who maybe have never really worked for something. I mean, this is me kind of making assumptions and stuff, so I understand.
Sure.
But like
Well, I
maybe you've
think
never.
when you
Go ahead.
when you see other people doing X and then you do X and you don't get the same result, it's
get
like,
frustrated.
wow. You're just like, and then they're like, well, it's not me. It's got to be something else.
So have you ever guys heard? Have you guys ever heard of a show called Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the episodes at all, or at least caught one?
I watched
seen a
bits.
few.
Okay, that was my guilty pleasure and how I hung out with my dad when I lived in the States and lived with my parents for that year before I moved to Japan. So we watched, it was like a weekly incursion with me and my dad on Friday nights. We'd watch like 2 or 3 episodes, like he'd backlog. And for me, it was great because when I was in college, I'd binge watch it on Christmas break because I had a marketing capstone that I had to do. And it was great because that was pretty much what we were trying to do. But we had to come up with something from scratch without any results and just have a like sales forecast and predictions on what we think people would actually do. So this is like the first venture capitalist, your first investors before you go to Shark Tank. That's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so on Shark Tank, something that I heard Kevin and the owner of the Mavericks, I cannot remember his name, save my life
Mark
right
Cuban.
now. Yeah, Cuban say a lot to really, really poor presentations, and them like trying to basically get on their hands and knees and beg, more or less, was that he's like, look, I see thousands of people or hundreds of people on this show alone coming in here and saying that they'll work their tails off and do whatever it takes. But the difference is people like you, talking to this bad presenter, are the people that say that come in here with 0 results and also say that you're going to work hard and give up things that are necessary for your human experience, such as family and well-being, for the sake of your idea that is obviously failing, and you're not taking social cues or life cues that this is a bad idea, is something that is not worth my time, my money, and shouldn't be worth yours either. You know what I mean? And so, like, when they said that, I started connecting some more dots with other stuff. And so, like, with Hearthstone, if you're, like, investing your time and your money, and we talked about this with our addiction episode, and I know that, Mage-a-Death, you had a lot of good things to say about that because you related to a lot of some of the stuff that we talked about on our experience as being something that you shared. And when you do something where it, like, is hurting to your own personal well-being, whether that be social structures and bringing this back to polarity, could be the fact that you're not able to interact with developers in a positive way because of how negative you're being, even if it's just being neutral and being misunderstood and not being able to control your tone so that you can be understood, is a major issue. And it's not good for your experience of the game, and it's not good for others either. And if they're telling you that this is like they're just agreeing, and you find yourself only talking to people that agree with you, then you're in a really rough spot. It may feel like friendship, but ultimately it's what's called the echo chamber, what we talked about earlier, and it's just all of these people sitting in a Hearthstone hated anonymous where everyone's just like, I want to hate this thing so bad, and I have to find people to hate it with, and then nobody's even feeling that great after you went and got all that off your chest.
It's kind of like being in a bad relationship. You ever meet people like that they're in a bad relationship and they want to blame the other person completely, and they go and they find that group of friends that will listen to them and pat them and rub them on the back and say, yeah, you're right about that, and never challenge their thinking. Was that
that person, that the other person's terrible? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they're terrible. You're totally right. No, you did nothing wrong, honey. You just keep doing what you're doing. That's not a friend.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. I think people get like that with games a lot of times. Oh man, that company, what are they thinking? Why would they create a character like that? Or why would they create a card like that? Or what's with this expansion? Or I mean,
it's fun when you're trying to meme and be a joke. It's like, oh, this character's busted, or this character's so unbalanced, and then everyone's like, yeah, I hate Junkrat, or I hate Nod Warrior, blah blah blah. Like, that's okay. Like, it's okay to be frustrated and to voice your opinion, but it's not like, here's my mini thesis on why you're wrong as a game developer.
The line there gets you got to be careful when you're doing that. You could say, I don't like Togwaggle because I don't like decks that all they have to do is, draw all their cards, then they take my cards and kill me with it. But if you're like, this is the stupidest thing ever, I can't believe they did this, what were they thinking? They should, it's
so funny when you have stuff like that around Togwaggle, right? Because it's like, if you would have gone back to when that card was created and released, and people talking about how stupid the card was, like, oh, this is the funniest card ever, I'm gonna play so much of this and lose so many games, and you're like, 3-4 months later, they're like, oh gosh, this card's so good,
and it turns out to be good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had that reaction. Remember when Shutterwalk, the first day of the season, I played a bunch of Shutterwalks and just got pwned, and it was easily the most. I tilted off out of the galaxy.
I've never seen Grant tilt this hard before.
I tilted so hard, and of course, I went on the internet and I found like 5 of the people that were like, I know, right? And then it just felt like, yeah, torches and pitchforks,
Even people like Toast winning with it were like on stream making a sandwich while they're waiting on the animation. Just like, yeah, this should probably get fixed soon. And he's like buttering his toast. It's like the funniest thing.
I mean, I had to come around though. I mean, it took me about 2 days. I just put the game down. I'm like, man, I just put like $100 into this expansion. I don't know if that was that much.
I think Eve and I both told you to put the game down.
You were all talking about the legend. You put $100 into something. You're like, I can at least expect to control my cards and not wait through animations. And I was so angry. I was visibly angry. I just sat and I slammed my phone on the table. I was sitting there looking up at it's probably exactly where I am, like looking up at the wall like this. And my wife's like, what's going on? And I says, stupid game. Like, what's wrong? Like, you wouldn't understand. You don't understand what a Shutterwalk is? You know what I mean? She was just,
the jaws that bite, the claws that catch, right? It's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And she just looks at me.
Yet on the other end, I was like, I can't wait to play that and do that to somebody else.
I was with you, Mage-a-Death. I was like, this is so dumb. I was like, I want to finish my game. And then like I was looking online and people are like, after you win the game, you know how the thing changes? Just quit the game and come back and the game's already over. You can just go. I was like, dude, that's genius. I can skip everything and I already
I want to sit here and I want to watch all that. I was like,
Shutterwalk's the closest
thing right there.
It's the closest thing we ever came to a legal bot. But I mean, it's like and she said to me, she's like, look, if that's how you're going to treat this game, you need to be done. And she just, if that's how you're going to react and you're going to have that kind of an attitude because of a game, you need to quit. You need to be done. Yeah. Like, I felt like I was talking to my mom for a second, but like, she was right. She was right.
So, okay.
So I had to retake stock.
So let me get back in here, and I know I skipped one of the paragraphs if you guys are reading the show notes and post show, but we kind of already addressed the last paragraph from Eve here, but I wanna grab this one. Blizzard is always trying to be all things for all people. And I know this is true, even though this seems like a subjective thing. This is what Blizzard has said, that they want all people to feel welcome to their games at all times and enjoy the game. And their original motif of the company was, we just make good games. It wasn't like anything other than that.
Yeah.
And then she says, maybe a game can't be for casuals and new players and pros and hardcores all at once. And maybe if it tries to be all of those things, it's going to suffer in some areas. And maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't expect so much from our games. Maybe we should just try to enjoy them and accept them as they are with all their blemishes and just have some fun. Or go elsewhere. Now,
that's a show, guys.
now I'm going to do what I always do, which is even if I disagree, I'm going to try to find a dissenting opinion. And so with this, I will say, with how many tools Blizzard has at their disposal and how long they have been pushing off something in this game for 4 years, right? 4 years of development, 4 years of team, plus beta, plus alpha, and closed beta and closed alpha. This team should be able to produce something for all players. And I honestly feel like they have neglected their semi-casual and above player base. And the reason, what I label as semi-casual is not like how often people like say that they play, but rather like what people are actually backing up with how consistently they play and feeling like they want to. Because there's a lot of people that play the game and don't want to. I was that way for a long time. Now I just don't play when I don't want to. Because I realize I can produce content, I can talk about the game, and I can enjoy that without having to play the game X hours a week or X times a day. And I think Hat actually 2 weeks ago put this really, really well in their game. So I'm not going to even concede that that's an opinion that I had well thought out and verbosely could portray it in a way that sounded like a philosopher, the way that philosopher Hatticus said last week or 2 weeks ago. And Hatticus being that him and Bodicus both said some really, really good things about how they enjoy the game. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of games out there, and we're podcasters. So when you're talking to podcasters, you're talking about content creators whose livelihood is based off of the game that they play, including pros, it's very rare that you're going to find their opinions being something that is overwhelmingly positive all the time, because their livelihood is based on something being fun. And if they're not enjoying the game, they're going to let you know because they have to talk about it every week. And if they're a pro, they have to play it in order to make the monies. Okay. Not everyone can make it as a variety streamer, and variety streamers are frankly just not that popular, because when you're looking on Twitch, everything right now is on demand. What do I want? I want a streamer. What kind of streamer do you want? Do you want a hamburger helper streamer? Do you want somebody to teach you how to make hamburger helper? Do you want to go watch somebody play Hearthstone? Do you want to go watch Black Ops 4 because it's new? Do you want to watch that one guy that just sits down at his piano and plays all day? I mean, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I can't choose. I don't know what I want for dinner. Well, there's 16 restaurants down the street and 4 grocery stores with any kind of food that you're going to want. We have too many options. And 18 deck slots ain't going to fill it, okay? No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a real old throwback meme.
27.
That's an old meme. All right. So when you're playing Hearthstone and you're looking at being competitive, you know that you have to put in a volume of games, and that should be expected. But we need to get into one more thing, and if it's okay, we can put off the deck of the week to go into this one more topic. Is that good with you guys? Mage-a-Death, is that all right? Okay. They're giving me nods, so if it doesn't sound that I'm rude in the audio version on the live show.
I think we should, Rob.
There.
Yes. All right. Now I have all the reasons. I'm gonna save that soundbite from now on. Just anytime I have an opinion, just play Mage-a-Death. Yes, I agree.
I think we should, Rob.
The echo.
You are
chamber
correct,
of death.
Rob.
Ooh. Okay.
Mage-a-Death
I have
can
so
keep
many
you
good sound
company.
bites now.
Even when he's sleeping, you can just like have a soundboard and like, I wonder, should I play Overwatch or Hearthstone? I think you should, Rob. There you go. Thank you, Mage-a-Death. So kind of you to chime in there.
I'm so glad you agree with me. Oh man, this is so bad for my ego. Let's keep going. The one thing that I want to say here, to transition us out here, I have a lot of things that we talked about, so I have to kind of pick one. But let me just read through this and then kind of get your opinions, if that's okay. Polarity, going back to the main article, polarity, you could argue, is necessary to equate for good balance in a game like Hearthstone, where it is a one-on-one format with regards to decks. Whether it be a rock, paper, scissors isn't actually true because there aren't just 3 main archetypes. It's that you have maybe 3 decks that are favored against these 7 decks, and then these 3 decks are weak to like these 4 decks. So it's way more dynamic than a rock, paper, scissors, to be sure.
Yes.
But that's just what people blame it on because it's easy to parse and it's easy to complain in some way that requires only 3 words instead of actually having an opinion that requires writing and context. And it's not me like taking pot shots at people that are whining. I'm just saying that's how we deal with frustration. We try to summarize and equivocate things, oversimplify it, and it's also something that actually is way more common within English-speaking countries and Germanic languages because we actually go straight to these extremist views where it's like everything and nothing and oh my gosh, I'm starving instead of just saying I'm hungry. Like Americans especially are really bad about going to extremist type words just as common casual conversation. And furthermore, polarity is good for polarity being good for game balance is also furthering by showing you how good it is to watch Hearthstone tournaments being played right now. Watching the tournament scene is some of the best stuff we've ever seen in the game's history, period. Whether it's subjective or objective, like the fact that there's this many decks in a roster lineup and saying, you know, there's 13,000 druids and there's 13,000 players. You know, it's like it's exactly the same number. But the fact of the matter is not everyone's bringing the same one deck, at least. And furthermore, polarity makes ladder, by virtue of it, feel worse in general by virtue of what the article is pushing at what I think are at the higher zones. Meaning rank 10 plus, where you see more players playing consistently. They're continually hitting these ranks, rank 10, rank 5, rank legend, upper legend, lower legend, which is the primary medium for the competitive audience and the consistently playing audience. I labeled the players that are ranked 10 plus, not like in a skill tier, but just people that are more familiar with the game, I feel like hit that rank, if that makes sense, because they just play more games. And then the polarity and good balance actually, in my opinion, could possibly foreshadow a non-Band-Aid fix to the ladder in the long term with regards to the rank 50, the rank 26 ladder. And I'm thinking that for me, like the fact that they patched it so that they had some kind of like change to ladder when they did the big rework, I was like, this still feels very Band-Aid fix to me. And then them introducing this 50 to rank 26 ladder section feels like to me that that's the experience that they're just going to give new players, and that all of us consistent players may just have something completely different after that. Or maybe that they're going to keep the rank numbers there and maybe adjust it again. And I'm not saying that this is without absolute certainty. I'm just saying people with this dissenting opinions on why ladder sucks right now, please, everyone always needs to hold their opinions until after BlizzCon if you're having any sort of opinions from June onward, because that's basically what the teams are doing in every game in Blizzard. They're holding their cards very close, and they're not playing until the last thing when they have to either fold or they have to show, right? Like, it's the whole poker terminology. And my last major opinion was that what if polarity is not the issue? Like, even though Vicious Syndicates has this article about polarity, they themselves agree that the game just needs something to make it more fresh, and the polarity may not be the primary issue, but it's one of the concerns that they have. And players being a part of the game that they don't like. You know what I mean? Like, what if people are just playing a game too much that they shouldn't be playing or shouldn't have to feel obligated to play, and it happens to be something that you can represent with data easily, and that's why Vicious Syndicate's writing on it. Because they can get a good article, they can get lots of good feedback, they can get lots of clicks, they can start lots of discussions, and it's something that is trackable. Having an opinion about how something feels isn't trackable. It's not something you can
feelings are non-quantifiable.
Yeah. And so, let me see here. Something you can represent with data well to write a really good article and present it why it feels bad, and some opinions from passionate players to dialogue about the game. So ultimately, my opinion here is that I think people are trying too hard to address a multifaceted issue with complex and simple, multifaceted and complex issue with simple implementations that only affect one area instead of a more holistic solution and an approach for diagnostics on this kind of an issue. I feel like armchair developing and armchair talking about the game and how it feels, even if you're playing the game a lot with data, still doesn't give you a holistic approach and having all of the tools you need to accurately make a diagnostic on how the game is. And I don't even think Hearthstone team feels adequate like that. Like, imagine being a developer and having something and like sitting in the backlog and you're like, this expansion feels great. We have a great diverse meta. We finally are catering the game to more tournament players. And then everyone's whining about ladder. It's like, well, we just gave you what you want.
It seems like this is what we've been asking for, right? When we don't have that one dominant deck. The last dominant deck that we had was like the even paladin, and it got nerfed. And it's been kind of wide open ever since. You know,
Q-block too.
Yeah, are you going to whine about one or two decks, or are you going to whine about rock, paper, scissors? Because there isn't an in-between with regards to how the community is going to respond to your game. And that's like, if I'm sitting at Blizzard as somebody that doesn't armchair develop very often, and somebody that tries not to advocate for doing something like that, and like trying to just have opinions and dialogue rather than like saying that my opinion is correct. Why can't we have like the players are like, why can't we have both? Like, why can't we have a strong deck for me to hit legend all the time, and then why can't our tournament meta be, balanced? It's like, well, that doesn't work. And so what Grant and I have been talking about over and over and over and over and over again with Eve is that, if we're gonna have tournaments be the main thing that we're gonna balance the game around, then the competitive scene should reflect how you can get points competitively with regards to playing in a tournament format. Not necessarily that there's a tournament mode, but the ladder at the highest level should at least reflect that. And if we're just going to sit here and grind one deck over and over and over again to get points, like these players don't want to sit down and grind one deck over and over again. And the fact of the matter is they can hit legend and get to like a certain point without decaying too much and then just not play the game the rest of the month until the last 2 days and just grind. Like, that seems really weird. Like, to ask your players month to month to month to grind and invest their time late at night and then playing on 3 different servers when, in my opinion, they shouldn't even be allowed to play on other servers for points. Yeah. And they should just increase the number arbitrarily on their home server and then not even have the ladder reflect their total point earnings and discourage them from doing that. Like, they should have an easier way for people to, participate in stuff. And it's like, there's just so many different things that we can kind of dive into and dovetail into other discussions. But this is kind of what I'm talking about being a multifaceted issue is kind of the main point here.
It's true. It's complicated. And I think anybody who says it's not is just missing. They're willfully being blind, I think, at this point in time, especially if you're engaging in discussions in forums.
And it's okay to have an opinion where you're just like, I don't know what the solution is, but guys, the game sucks for me right now. And I'm sorry, I can't really give you much more. And like, if you can say
that.
Yeah, like I can respect that. I can also respect people saying like the game sucks and here's some things that I'm thinking might be the case. But like when I boot up the game, why do I not want to play? Like if your answer is I don't want to play because I don't want to play, then that doesn't give the developers anything they can work on. And that also doesn't mean that the game is bad. It just means that you're not enjoying it.
Right. Yeah.
And that could be just game fatigue. Like it happened to me. With every game I've played, I have game fatigue.
Well, geez, Rob, how many years has it been since between like when you played Warcraft seriously?
I mean, this is the first time I played it seriously in a long time.
Like years, right?
Well, again, part of that was my experience was not that I didn't want to play either. It was that I really wanted to, but I had school and I was like, priorities. I got to play school. I can't raid. I can't do this. And I was like, I can't enjoy it. Like Hat and I talk about this in the community a lot where I can't play a game that I can't research and play specific features that make me feel competitive or feel like I'm doing something at a higher level.
Right.
Like I'm learning the game and playing it to min-max it. Like if I'm not min-maxing something, I'm not enjoying a game. It's just how it works.
Yeah. Well, that's your style, man.
It's hard for me to be casual in anything.
Right. I hear you there. Yeah. That's the thing is like I think a lot of people probably share that idea, and so when you're dug in deep in Hearthstone, like if you have years and hundreds of dollars invested in it, the thought of repeating that process over and jumping into a different game that's going
Mm,
to ask similar things of you, frankly, it's daunting. You look at it and like, no, just Hearthstone needs to be
yeah.
better. And I think a lot of people take that emotion and they run with it.
Now, Mage of
Like
Death,
I don't
we've
want to
been
change.
we've been going back and forth quite a while. Is there anything that's kind of like piqued your interest here at the discussion that is kind of like how you're feeling about the game right now? Like I know you said you kind of settled in, so this is kind of like where you're kind of like the meat and potatoes for you, right? Like this
I
is where you're enjoying the game.
well, I mean, it's like I definitely like that I'm not queuing into like the same matchup every game or every other game. Like there's been times even in the shorter time frame that I've been playing the game. Um, Even though that is kind of I think easier because if you play the same matchup over and over again, you can kind of get a feel on it. Um, I like that there's lots of decks, but it does it this is what we want, and then this is what we get when we get what we want. I mean, I was thinking about this, and it really is like if you're gonna have this many decks that are viable, there's probably gonna have to be polarized matchups as a result of that, right? Because you're not having more mirror matches, you're having decks that are good against some swath of the meta, and they're going to be, most of it's going to be the bell curve, but there's ends, it's like we're it seems like a lot of people aren't happy with the ends, and that they feel like these ends are just the whole thing,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it I have to remind myself that like if I am playing and I queue into an unfavored matchup, that that's what somebody else has decided that's what they want to play, and then we got queued. It's not Blizzard purposely pointing the bad matchup to me, but at the same time, I mean, I look
Mm.
and I try and figure out what is going to be. I think why I like Death Rattle Hunter is its lower variance. It doesn't have the big win matchups, and it doesn't have the big loss matchups that some of these other decks have. And so I've gravitated to it, and I've tried to learn that deck because I know that if I queue into a bunch of like
You feel like the polarity is a little bit more manageable
yeah,
with
yeah,
regards to
yeah.
how that aspect of the game feels, right?
Right, right.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm more in control of my own destiny when it comes to like,
Yeah,
my
being
plays
unfavored
then.
isn't the end of the world is kind of what you're
Right,
saying.
right.
Yeah.
I have ways I can go about the matchup if I've learned the deck well enough. And I've tried other decks in the last couple months that are more on the other ends, the odd warriors, and some of that sort of thing. And it does in some ways matter who I get matched up against, and I feel like I realize that, and so I'm thinking about that when I'm queuing in with these games, but I don't know if everybody else is thinking about it in maybe that same way. And
Mhm.
so it's I I think yeah, we it was brought up that everybody has kind of a perspective, and I think you're allowed you can have whatever that is, and it's just you get
It gets
yeah I
messy. It
just
just gets
yeah
messy.
yeah it is it's but you know I still I'm still playing the game as much now or a little bit more than I always have, and it's just I feel like there's something there for me, but the comment about all things to all people, I very much think this game could be something for everybody, but at
Mhm.
the same time I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah,
There's
like
there's the distinction there that I think it could be for pros, but not every pro. It can be for semi-casual, but not every semi-casual. And
Hmm.
now is a great time to be into CCGs because there's so many other options. There's Magic,
Sure.
there's Eternal, there's others. So if you're not finding what you want here, you can look elsewhere. But as you were saying, Grant, if you've already spent the time and you've spent the money
The
and
obligation feels
and
like
you
it's
enjoy the
bearing.
community, you
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to make that switch, and so you're just kind of like you're upset and you're kind of probably
Yeah, my
So-
my home church back in America used to say something like, using the term "put your roots down." Like, if you're putting your roots down in something, it's harder to leave. And
Right.
your
Yeah.
roots in this case can be your money, your time, your friendships, your friends list. And just because there's another game that's offering something that you want, I know that for the longest time at the beginning stages of Hearthstone, I wasn't playing a lot because I was the only person that I knew that played. And the only people I knew was in a Google Hangout. There was like 10 other people that sometimes popped in that I just never met before. And Eve was one of them. But I'm just like, nobody plays this game here. Why did I play League of Legends for so long? It wasn't because I enjoyed it. All my friends are playing.
Mm-hmm.
If I got people around me that are playing something, I mean, that's why there's a big resurgence with other stuff right now, like tabletop gaming. Tabletop gaming is destroying right now. Like, they're doing big works, and not just D&D. I mean, like, everything. Tabletop games are having a big resurgence right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is relatively unrelated, so I won't go too much into it. But like, if you're leaving, like, I think Mage-a-Death, you brought it back full circle to when we're talking about just the games having too many options. Like, you got Artifact, you got MTG Arena, you've got Hearthstone, you've got what's the Japanese card game? Gosh dang it, I can't remember. Shadowverse. You've got that one, and I mean, and I think the game that just shut down that was what was that one, Grant? The one that Life Coach left for that ended up Gwent, yeah.
Did they shut it down? Is it?
I don't know. I just heard somebody was. It might not be true, but I thought that I heard that the game was shutting down, or that people were getting really mad at the game because they weren't doing any reasonable updates for a long time, and it's still there, but they're not doing any updates. So, anyways,
It's had its run.
Guys, we've been talking a long time, and we could do this a lot longer, but we know that you guys have other shows to get to, and we want to be good with your time. But if you guys have any opinions, please run over to our Discord, run over to Coin Concede, run over to Hero Power, Walk to Work. I mean, TAC. If you find a community where you want to go talk about the game and want to talk about people that are not going to echo chamber with you, I know that those are some places that you can go. I know 1600 Dust guys will tell you that, we're not here to argue. We're not here to like whine about the game unless you want to really, really let loose and then feel better. That's okay. If you want to let loose about, those 30-minute Taunt Warrior games, that's fine. Just know I'm still going to play it against you.
So a quick one
Yeah, so a quick one.
then.
Like 30? That was a good game.
So fast, man.
All right, guys. Please note that even though Eve wasn't here, don't worry about it. I know that we've had some people message us. It's just, it's logistics. Just let it go. She's not here. We're not sure when things are going to pan out for us. So we actually can't give you a timeline. She wanted to mention that this week for you guys, and we want to make sure that she also mentioned to me today that she's going to be working on a uploading something
segment
to the drive that I can edit for you guys on Patreon for regards to a new lore episode. So that will be coming, and it is in the works. I'm not sure which one it is. I want to say it's probably continuing the storyline of Arthas and the Lich King, because she did one on Ner'zhul and a little bit more Lich King stuff, so you guys can check that out. I believe she's still trying to transition into Arthas' story. So keep that in mind. I will go ahead and leave the Even Pally deck list in the show notes. If you guys want to just play something new, it's from a username by the name of Corbett Games, CORBETTGAMES on Twitter. And the deck code is really cool. Grant's been playing it and enjoying it. It's pretty good.
It looks interesting. Seen it. I've seen it in action. It looks.
It runs
cool.
a Wind Fury Harpy from your basic set. So if that doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will.
And Dino Size. Come on,
And Dino Size. I mean, come on.
Wind Furio into Dino Size is the best.
Yeah, buddy. And Mossy Horror, Vodicus's favorite card in the game. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the show. If you want to find anything else with regards to the episodes, you can check out our archive page on velenschosen.com. You can check links to find our Discords and our Twitter, and our live stream is every week on twitch.tv/velenschosen podcast when I'm able to host. I've been trying to work with Grant to kind of teach him the ropes a little bit more. He's been testing out his stream on his end, so if you want to find him, he'll probably let you know the information when he feels comfortable about his stream. Or maybe you'll just find the Velen Chosen podcast go live randomly, and it'll probably just be Grant playing Hearthstone.
Yeah, I did that the other day because I told your wife and kids are out. So I'm like, you know what? Time to figure out how to use Twitch. And I played Even Paladin for about an hour on stream. So
There you go.
It was cool. And it did all right.
It's
I had a
pretty
positive
easy.
win rate. So
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Just
So,
gotta get the
Grant, why
overlays
don't you
and stuff
just
down.
use this time to talk about where people can find you?
If you want to get a hold of me, go to Twitter at WatchmanHS. If you want to get a hold of me in game, Watchman hashtag, let's see, what is it? 1140. Been having issues with friend requests. People, I have like 165 friends, and I know I can have more, but people have been friend requesting me, and I haven't been able to accept. I've been trying. So if you got rejected on accident, try again. I want to try and figure out how to make that work.
Sounds good. Mage-a-Death, where can people find you on your stream, my dude?
So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Central Time, I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mage-a-Death. Yeah, pretty easy. And Twitter is the same at Mage-a-Death there as well. Usually mostly talking about Hearthstone, and then usually tell people what I'm going to be playing on a given night and that sort of thing.
And the
So-
occasional baseball tweets for those
And,
hopeful?
there's probably some baseball in there
All
too.
right,
I
all right.
definitely I don't yeah. It probably is not much of a crossover group. Most of the people I interact with are Hearthstone now, but
Okay.
yeah, you might get stuck hearing about something I'm thinking about baseball too.
Nice. If you guys want to find Eve, her Twitter is Loremaster Eve, and there is no changes. There's no anything big. It's only when you want to add her on BattleNet. It's Loremaster Eve without the ER on Loremaster, so it's Loremast R Eve 1974. If you want to find her lore-based show that does not include Warcraft or includes other stuff, I know that Hat was on recently talking about Hollow Knight with her co-hosts, and that's Knights of Lore, not knights as in evening time, but knights as in metal armored suits of lore. And you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at the tag Not Rob. You can check out the new specs that I got. I posted something on Instagram there. If you guys like Overwatch, I will be hosting and moderating the panel at Calm Before the Storm on November 1st. If you're in the venue, our panel starts at 10 p.m. on the 4th floor of the Marriott. You guys can follow the signs to get there with calmbeforestorm.com. Or if you're looking at anything else, you can Google World of Podcasts. That will also show up. Special thanks to the organizers, Ro and Seraphis. You guys are fantastic. Seraphis even showed up to a live stream we did a couple weeks ago for our podcasters playing in the game night for OmnicLab. If you guys like that, you can check out omniclab.com. And Carrie and I haven't recorded anything new with our D&D group, but last night was one of the funniest things that happened. We knew everyone was going into a shop-based episode because we were turning in our quests and getting a gold from our quest giver, more or less, in D&D. And we got to the shop, and I grabbed the Wii music from the shop that's really popular in meme culture right now. I can probably actually pull it up for you guys right now real quick. Let me see. Wii shop music, where if there's a 10-hour loop.
Oh
Oh
no.
gosh.
Oh.
I can't get it now. I'm sure you guys can probably hear this on stream, but
Yep. Oh gosh.
so it's like the
It's
most,
Muzak. That's
it's
what it
the
is.
most shop-based music. So like we got into the shop and then like we talked through like, what do you guys want to get? My name's Carowin. Welcome to the shop name. And then I just played that in there and like everyone just lost it. So it was just a really good episode. We'll probably talk about it next week on conceptcraft.libsyn.com. Thank you guys for joining us on episode 159. We will see you next week. Hopefully we'll get you some more lore on the Patreon. But remember, not all who wander are lost. We'll see you guys. Thanks again, Mage-a-Death, for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, you can stop your recordings.